Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
What is the scariest, creepiest thing you have seen or heard?
Don't really know if it'll be creepy for you or just weird. It was pretty scary for us, gather a group of friends to spend a night camping in the woods. 2 girls and 3 guys. Park our car next to a dirt road that leads to the forest. Pretty normal walk for the most part. We're alone the whole time since it's midweek and pretty cold outside. Stop to have a snack. As soon as we open our backs to take our food, we all smell a weird scent. Not something strong, but like when you leave food outside of the fridge and it starts rotting. Who brought rotten food, man? Everything seems in order and tastes good, so we eat and leave immediately. We finally get to a small lake in a clearing, unpack our stuff and start placing our tents. Getting dark quickly, but it's all set up and we're drinking beers. Same smell as before, but maybe a bit stronger. About 30 minutes later, we see a figure at the other side of the lake walking towards us. As it approaches, one of the girls realizes it's a girl. She's wearing a pink coat and jeans. Everything looks normal enough aside from the fact that she's walking out of the woods with no light. Comes to us and starts talking to us. She's very friendly and looks fine AF. She's in her late 20s or something. Says she's walking because the weather's a bit better these days. Starts flirting with one of the guys and has a few drinks with us. An hour later or something, she says she's leaving. Bitch, it's pitch black. Where the hell are you going? Offer her a flashlight and a cereal bar. Takes the cereal bar. Says she'll be okay without the flashlight. We're all worried and a bit creeped out as she leaves, but whatever. We're not going to stop her. The rest of the night is uneventful. Pack our things in the morning and start walking towards the car. The 2 girls are talking about the pink coat girl, saying there were no other cars parked in the road and the forest is in the middle of nowhere. We should call the police as soon as we get home. Getting closer to our car, the smell comes back. Not stronger though, just the same smell. About 15 minutes later, one of the girls goes, "Shit, hey, come here." She's found something in a creek, a pink coat hanging on a tree branch and a pair of boots, like carefully placed there. The guy she was flirting with says maybe she's been kidnapped or something. Doesn't seem like it. There are no signs of violence or anything. Other guy finds a half-eaten cereal bar about 10 meters from the coat. After a few minutes of WTF can we do, we decide to leave and call the police. The police tells us there are no missing people, but they will investigate. We have no idea about what happened to this day. It was a weird experience overall. I went a couple of times to the same area and found nothing, but both times were like a year after what I just told you, so that's all I can tell you.
I work for a mental health institution and recently was given a tour of the abandoned upper floor of the main building by a senior employee who dabbles in the paranormal. At first I thought the paranormal was a joke played by the co-workers to scare people, but I really understand now. So we go upstairs and everything is old. Nothing has been replaced or refurbished. It's a large, long hallway with rooms to the side and on each end. We head towards one end and stop at the door to talk. After a few seconds, I immediately feel someone pass by us and then feel their presence behind me. I turn to look behind me and find nothing. Then my co-worker asks me if I felt someone pass by too. I have never felt such a strong presence in my life. It shook me. So he continued on into the room and told me he gets a lot of activity in it usually. We walk to the end of the room and he knocks on a door a few times. Nothing happens after a minute, so he knocks this time with his foot on the floor. Again, nothing. We walked back towards the door and stopped again to talk, and that's when it happened. We both heard what sounded like something heavy being dragged across the old wooden floor, like vibrations. Thing is, my co-worker only heard it. I felt it under my right foot. The wooden plank under my foot began to vibrate violently for about 2 seconds. It was crazy. I'm not making anything up, I promise. Also, there is nothing in the floor or ceiling below me that would cause such a vibration. It's a very old building. I now truly believe in life after death. I've never experienced anything like it before, but I will go back to see more.
Actually, real story incoming. It happened in 2015. Be me, senior in high school. Have to get fingerprinting done to work at the local park. Wake up early to take the bus. It is freezing with crazy strong winds. Shrug it off as Sokol weather, even though it was about 98 degrees yesterday. The bus arrives. It just slows down to a speed-walking speed along the curb. I yell, "Hey, hold up." It finally stops. The bus driver does not even talk to me. Tap my tap card on the thing, but it doesn't beep. Walk to a seat, pretending that it went through. I guessed I forgot to refill my card. The bus driver doesn't do anything, kind of normal since bus drivers let students get away with it sometimes. 40 minutes pass. Arrive in front of the park, Lake Balboa Park in Van Nuys, and it is scorching hot and dry. Have to walk through weird entrances meant for cars and walk like 10 minutes through barren dirt to get to the office. I arrive and follow like 3 signs that read, "Fingerprinting that way." Reach a small office with an Armenian woman wearing really dirty shoes, like just walked out of a mud pit, dirty. She asked me for my birth certificate and ID. I open my binder I brought, and it just has my resume in it. Leave disappointed. Forget to reschedule. Try to knock on the tiny office door, with no other exits, but she doesn't answer. Get an overwhelming feeling of dread. Feel like I'm about to get jumped or something. Leave the office immediately. I walk outside and it is nighttime. I arrived at 9 or 10 a.m. The phone has no service in the park to begin with, and it is 11:54 p.m. Panic. It is just dark as shit and there is just a large, barren dirt field in front of me. Hear leaves rustle loudly in the line of trees to my left. I get spooked and just gun it through the field and road. Dumb decision in hindsight. Don't stop running until I'm in front of some Mexican supermarket. I take a taxi home. I found a card on a bus stop bench. My phone goes berserk with texts from my uncle.
Been years since I ex-posted. In the army. Friend and bunkmate drops dead while exercising. Later learned he had an undiagnosed heart murmur. Get a few days leave for the funeral, etc. He was my best friend. Just sleep instead for hours. Hear him walk into my room and sit on his bunk. I was wide awake, too shocked to stir awake. Turn my head, see him sitting on the bed. Can't talk, throat seized up. Before I can act, he just vanishes in the blink of an eye. Following this, people started seeing him everywhere, just standing in the field where he died, leaning against a telephone pole. One guy saw him while on picket and fainted when he recognized him. My very level-headed base commander talked to me about my friend. He tactfully brought up the recent sightings and just said, "This happens occasionally. I don't know why, but those words have always stuck with me."
Probably plenty of rational explanations, but it still scares me. 8 years old, living in a shitty house in the English countryside. Basically several extensions built off of a small old farmhouse. My room was the attic extension, the only room where there was a view of the church out the window, due to the dividing hedge in between it and our garden. Middle of winter, heavy snow, half an hour from nearest town, so ice totally covering roads. Wake up in the middle of the night to a kind of metallic banging, like someone was hitting a surface with a hammer or something. Go to look out the window. See this thing on the roof of the church. Can't see any details, just roughly the shape of a person. It's hitting the church roof with its hands, no tools. It's this skinny silhouette humanoid, it's sort of like squatting. Sounds like its hands are made of metal, the banging is so loud. Begin to feel this weird sensation while looking at it. Totally frozen in fear, which is pretty standard, but everything feels very wrong. Only way I can think to describe it is that the air around me felt sort of thicker, and more still, the banging only gets louder and louder, to the point where it was physically painful. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually bolted downstairs to my parents' room, slept in their bed for a week after that. In the morning, tell my parents about the banging and the thing. Hear nothing about it for a few days. Mom tells me a few days later that the vicar told her some lead thieves had stolen tiles from the roof or something. My parents insist I saw a burglar. It was the middle of winter, roads too icy to drive anywhere, and crucially, roofs too icy to climb. I didn't see a gang of lead thieves, I saw a lone shadow thing just hitting the roof.
Back in the day, 2010-ish, worked as an armed guard for Section 8 housing complex in the ghetto. During the summer, the afternoon shift had a lot of activity, working during winter, so slow that I'm stuck on dispatch duty and only one officer is on patrol. No one goes on patrol without partner, and there's literally no one outside at 1 a.m. and 10 below zero. taking turns watching CCTV and Hulu, Netflix, etc. Suddenly hear a loud crash from building office waiting room, specifically hear the door slam shut, and can hear the leftover Halloween decoration on the door making noise. Adrenaline.jpg. Look at other guard, and he's spooked. Other guard is a 2-time Iraq vet, and not easily spooked as long as I've worked with him. He draws his weapon and runs toward the front of the office. I draw my weapon and follow him. We clear the entire front office area, but there's no one there. WTF.jpg. I tell him I want to clear the back area. Clear out the break room, elevator control room, storage room. Nothing. Check the CCTV, and there's nothing but the two of us looking like morons. Didn't log anything, report anything, or mention to anyone else, because not only did we not have any evidence, but they would have been like, yeah, these guys are mentally disabled. Fast forward to the next winter, and pretty much the exact same thing happened. Same exact scenario, same exact people involved. It creeps me out because it was, without a doubt, that exact door and decoration that we heard. And the sound was of that specific door closing, even though the door was already deadbolted since the office was closed. After years of working there, you could tell by sound which door was being opened and closed, just like you can after years of living in the same house. I was always under the impression that spoopy-type sightings and stuff always happened in places where there were a lot of really stressed-out, distraught people, which is the cause and which is the effect. But aside from the two things I mentioned there, I never really saw or heard anything else paranormal. I was pretty much always on second and third shift, and a lot of times we would take turns hiding in the shadows near the emergency exits to grab people trying to sneak in because they usually had warrants or lots of drugs or weapons or all of the above. All that time lurking in the creepy dark places and never saw anything else. Once we were looking for someone in the wooded area when it was pitch black and didn't see anything there either. I'm just surprised and also thankful that there weren't more ghostly shenanigans at this place.
Young degenerate about 13 or 14. Have a friend the same age who is equally degenerate. Have a cool idea to stay out all night. Always sounds like a cool idea until you do it because by the time it's the early hours you get bored, hungry, and tired. That's exactly what happens, just like every other time. At about 2 a.m. we go to the local park. Decent location because it keeps us off the streets. That way any police doing their rounds won't see us and take us home. Always remember the night was really eerie calm. We live on a big hill and there's always wind, even at least a subtle breeze. But this night, there was nothing. Anyway, we sit inside the climbing frame because it's solid and no one can see through it. After talking for maybe 20 minutes, we both become aware of this background noise. But you know the type that feels like it's been there the whole time and you've only just noticed it? It was like that. It sounds like creaky metal that needs to be oiled. Peek our heads over the top of the climbing frame. Little girl about 6 playing on the swing by herself, just swinging really gently. Look around for adults. Absolutely no one there. Little girl stops swinging and looks at us for a few seconds, then resumes swinging. Both shit ourselves and run away. Second we're out of the park and onto the street, we feel guilty because of how young she is. Decide to go back to make sure she's all right. No sign of her swing is still swinging, but like when someone has just gotten off it. Look all over the park and outside on the street. No trace of her. Easily one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. She was no ghost or anything, she was a real girl. Where she came from and where she went, though, I have no idea. I didn't see her picture in the paper or anything, so I assume that she didn't come to any ill harm.
Similar story to yours. Riding my bicycle to school earlier than usual to finish a project with classmates before school starts. Almost pitch black outside. Riding through a park when suddenly a little girl walks out of the shadows right next to me. Slide down to the floor and eat shit trying not to hit her. She laughs at me as she walks towards the swing set and gets swinging. Have a hard time registering what just happened as I'm wondering, WTF a little girl would be at a park for this early in the morning by herself. As I'm leaving the park on my bike, I stop to look back at the swings. The little girl is gone as the swing she was on is still swinging. I own an apartment pretty close to that park now. I look over at it every time I drive by it late at night trying to see any signs of that girl again.
Last year, after Christmas. Go over to Grandma's to put away Christmas stuff for her. Just me and her in the house. About an hour into cleaning, I hear a loud crashing noise coming from downstairs. You hear that, Grandma? Hear what? Grandma can't hear anyway. Assume the worst and pull my pistol on the way downstairs. Check the only 2 windows down there, both not broken. Nothing else down there had been moved. Shrug it off and go back upstairs. 30 minutes into cleaning again, when there's another crash, this time in an upstairs room right above me. It was loud. It shook the whole damn house. Run over to Grandma. You hear that? Hear what? Go upstairs to check it out, remembering all the horror stories family members have told me about this attic on the way up. Check each and every room. Nothing. There was nothing that could have caused that noise and rumble. Go downstairs and outside to see if anything had fallen on the roof. Nothing on the roof. Back inside, asking Grandma if she heard anything or felt the house shake. She didn't. Later on back at home, I checked the local news to see if there was an earthquake, car crash, city work, or anything that could have caused all that. Once again, nothing. I've thought about this through and through, but nothing could have made that loud of a noise and shake the house without there being any evidence to it.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Undead sheep. During a drought, dams can get really sticky as the clay bottom is exposed by evaporation. Thirsty sheep often try to get through it to the small pool of water in the middle and can get stuck. I was moving sheep out of a far paddock to one where we had a water trough and went to check on the dam. Sure enough, there was a sheep stuck. Crows and insects had already had a savage go at it. There was a hole in its back. The wool had parted along its spine, and the sun had burned it badly. Then the crows had just dug in. Backbone and ribs could be seen, covered in black blood. Its arsehole was just a foul, red crater, too. Like a small explosive had been detonated inside, but it was just the work of the birds again. Morbid interest moved me around to see its head. That was the worst part. Ears, lips, eyes were gone. The tongue, too. Partially skeletonized and along the edges where ragged flesh remained, and in the eye sockets, maggots writhed. I'd seen enough. I turned to leave, and its head followed my movement. It shouldn't have moved, it should be dead, well and truly dead, having suffered nearly unimaginable agony. But it wasn't. That was about 20 years ago, and I still think about it. I know it could see me. Probably wanted me to end it, but I just left really quickly. Didn't go back to that corner of the farm for 4 or 5 years after. By then the rains had filled the dam again and drowned it away, whatever it was.
Nature can be so brutal. I used to keep a praying mantis as a pet. One night my roommates caught a large cockroach and threw it in the cage I kept the mantis in. At first I thought the roach was too big, but the mantis surprised me when it managed to grab it in a sort of full Nelson hold. The mantis then proceeded to slowly eat away at the nape of the roach until it had severed its head and 2 front legs. The mantis continued to eat the body with the still alive head watching from the bottom of the cage. I went to sleep a few hours later and woke up to check on the aftermath. The head was still alive next to its half-eaten body, and the mantis was looking rather fat. The roach wasn't completely dead for another whole day.
Yeah, well, most things are smart enough to die when they're decapitated. Shit adaptation on the cockroach's part.
Be me. 9 years old, falling asleep. Notice something out of the corner of my eye. A weird shadow dude standing in the corner of my room. What? Stare at him for a solid 5 minutes. Close my eyes and decide it's just my brain playing tricks on me. Open my eyes again out of fear, and the figure is closer, moved from the corner to the middle of the room. The figure starts walking to the corner again every time I open my eyes. This happens a couple times. My brother, we share a room, randomly wakes up to get a midnight snack, opens the door, which so happens to be right next to Shadow Dude. Light from the hallway shines into my room, and the Shadow Dude is gone. I walk to the kitchen and follow my brother. Freaked out, but don't say anything. Eat a sandwich, go back to bed. Several years later, I remembered this event randomly and told my family about it, and both of my siblings say that they've also seen Shadow Dude. Creepy.
Me at 8 years old, in a bar with some family. Mom is chilling with friends and brought me along. Guy comes up to me and says, "Give me a hug." Fuck off, Lion Maker. I walked away. We leave. 2 days later, I see this guy standing in front of the house. He says, "Can I have a hug now?" Holy shit, I'm going to die. JPEG. I called my mom. My mom says, "There's nobody out there." 2 days roll by. Mom and I are watching TV. You can see outside from the TV and we have the windows open. BC, it's summer. I hear, "It's time for my hug." I look outside and this guy is on the deck. This is my death.jpg. I tell my mom and she looks over and is like, "Boy, there is nobody there." This is 2 p.m. in the afternoon and you can see the entire yard from this window, and the yard has a 5-foot fence, aka you don't just vanish. That night I went to bed. I get woken up and this fucker is standing at the end of my bed. Can I have my hug now? I'm so spooked that I can't move. I manage to scream. My mom bursts in and turns on the lights. Where the hell did he go? JPEG. 10 years later. It's 2018 now, and I woke up 3 nights ago to the same man standing over me saying, "You're all grown up now and I'm ready for my hug." Am I haunted? 4chan? Am I going to die?
This isn't too scary, but it still scared the shit out of me. Probably about 14 years old at the time. Always had trouble sleeping and was plagued with nightmares. Probably about 1 a.m., I couldn't sleep. Thirsty, so head downstairs to get a glass of water, and thought I might as well get a bite to eat. In the kitchen, everything seems normal, but I can't help but feel an ominous presence. Shake it off, get my glass plus food, and go to the brief hallway that leads upstairs. There are 2 light switches. One turns on the lights further downstairs, the other turns on the ones upstairs. My hands are full, and I can't turn on the lights, too paranoid to nudge against them because I don't want to dawdle downstairs any longer. Decide just to quickly walk upstairs. Suddenly the kitchen door slams, even though it had a doorstop in it, pushing out the doorstop just in front of me. Freak out. And just as I start pacing it upstairs, I hear one of the scariest and weirdest things ever, within really close proximity of me. Probably only about a meter from me. It sounded like a deer or some sort of animal, trying to laugh like a human. A kind of hum, hoo laugh, in a deep, grimy, and unnatural voice. I look down into the darkness, and can make out a strange body, arms raised like gibbons when they run, only bigger and even more gangly. No one is downstairs, as my brother, who would usually sleep down there, is on a trip. My neighbors are also on holiday, meaning no matter what, no one could be downstairs. I bug out and run upstairs, spilling water and dropping my food. I rush upstairs, opening the first door, being my mom's. Too shook to go on my own, I climbed in with her. No Chris Chan. She is annoyed that I woke her up, but I'm still freaking out. Everything quiets down, and I'm slightly calmer being in bed with someone else. Then I hear something that makes me paranoid, even when I am with someone else. A chorus of laughs in various pitches serenade outside the room. "Mom, can you hear that?" I ask, freaking out. My mom replies, clearly viewing me as irrational, because I was always an irrational kid. "There is absolutely nothing out there in this house that can hurt you." I try to keep this in mind, but it's hard with the chorus of varying laughter outside the door. I feel a presence moving behind me, sweating and clutching the covers. I am too scared to turn around. Feel something touch me from behind. It feels chiseled and very real. I don't even remember what happened after that. I probably fell asleep and I have no idea how. I remember waking up dazed, sitting on the stairs. Everything was bright, and yet I still felt too scared to move.
My mom mentioned that I went back to my own room to sleep. Have no memory of this at all. The shit still freaks me out to this day, and I remember being paranoid for the next week.
Be me last Saturday, camping in the woods with some mates. Tell me they were hearing shit last night before I came. Screams, footsteps, weird birdish noises. Joke around, oh no, not a skinwalker. All laughing, but the two who camped here last night still seem pretty shaken up. We have more people coming later and they can't fit in the one spot, so we go scout out the second area. Entire time walking there, I feel like we're being stalked. About halfway there, it goes dead silent, save for some bird-like noises. But this isn't a proper bird call. God, no, it isn't. Sounds like something trying to mimic a bird. Chirps sound more like beeps, etc. Friend one, we'll call him Flynn, stops dead in his tracks and looks up towards some shrubbery. Ask him if he's okay. He gestures for me to be quiet. After a few seconds says, I swear I'm looking right at it. Stay standing there trying to see what he means. After what feels like 10 minutes, he shakes it off and we keep walking. Everything was fine after that, until some more people showed up. We tell them about all the creepy shit so far. Everyone agrees they want to go hunt it, horribly underprepared. 3 of us left. 2 were coming back from a walk. Flynn asks us where the hell we're going. Tell him we're going hunting. He shakes his head. You guys go. I'll catch up in a minute. Just me and 2 others. The overly confident dude who just wants to kill something and doesn't really believe it's anything weird. We'll call him Ted. And the slow walker, sometimes he can be a bit of a that guy, but he has his heart in the right place most of the time. Call him Ray. About halfway through, Ted suggests we split up and meet at the same point. The thought of that fills me with a sense of dread I cannot describe. Tell him to shut up. We're sticking together. Reluctantly agrees. Flynn catches up, says we should split into groups of 2. Seems a hell of a lot better than everyone lone wolfing it, so I agree. Me and Flynn group up and head further down the bush. Ray and Ted go further east. The whole time walking with Flynn, I feel super paranoid. At this point, I know something is watching us. I feel like it wants to pick us off separately. Feel good about telling everyone to stick together. Now dead silence again. Only the birdish noises fill the nothing. We stop a few times when Flynn tries to look in the shrubbery. Otherwise, we speed walk in the direction of the camp. Meet up with Ted and Ray about halfway there. Ask if they heard anything. Nods and general lack of talkativeness confirms that they felt what we felt. Start walking back together, Ray lagging behind, all of us getting pissed at him. I would rather he didn't get lost and then killed by whatever this thing is, because whatever suspicions that there was something out here were confirmed. I know it's not a skinwalker because I'm not a dumbass and I don't live in America, but it's something, and it's hunting us as much as we're hunting it. On the way back, step in mounds of its shit. I know this is its shit because one of us owns the property we're on, and he confirms that there's nothing here that shits like this. Looks like horse shit, but can't be because not even wild horses are out here. Pretty sure we've reached its nesting grounds. Announce this to the group. Everyone except Ray starts walking faster. Dumbass. Get back to camp finally, sit down with Ted, smoke some cigarettes with him, and play cards. Eventually, the time has come for everyone to go to sleep. Everyone except me, Flynn, and other bro asleep. Flynn goes to get some more wood and chuck a piss. Walks about 10 steps into the bush before we hear something running at him. He nopes and attempts to sleep. So does the other bro. Eventually, it's just me and Ted awake. He didn't tell me he was until morning. Hearing the usual footsteps around us, fake bird noises, whatever, decide fuck it and try to sleep. The moment I close my eyes, I hear the most bone-chilling sound. Still haunts me. It's like a dog howling and a man with lung cancer screaming combined. I am wide awake. It took me an hour to go back to sleep. After the scream, it was the usual footsteps and shit, some closer than others. At one point, not long after the scream, I found out some of the footsteps were Ted getting up to try and find the thing. Wake up in the morning, Ted and I discuss it, share my experience with everyone else. No one doubts that this is some weird shit anymore, save for maybe Ray. During the morning, we hear some more messed up shit. Girls screaming, laughter. Pack our shit up and get out of there. So that's my experience /X/. We're going back there soon, this time more prepared. Everyone knows each other's motivation for going back there, to find and put down that thing. Does anyone know what this could be /X/? It freaked us all the fuck out.
You guys are mentally handicapped if you think you can go back and live.
Well, I didn't say we were smart. Also, as I said, we're going a lot more prepared. 2 people are bringing guns, which are a pain in the ass to get because of gun laws. And we're setting up the area a lot better, plus a ton of traps.
Some ideas from someone not big on wilderness or hunting, but how about trying to set up a perimeter of sorts? Like try to wall off areas you are going to patrol somehow, like some base camp or something, and then try to extend the allocated area with time. Maybe with this approach you can actually spend some time, maybe days on end out there, and try map the creature's behavior. When it approaches and during what times and what you were doing when it decided to get close, etc. Maybe try to different things when you feel its presence to see how it reacts. Information like when it's more likely to approach and not. This can help you form a foundation for figuring out how to hunt it properly. Could be a fun project to build the camping base as well. You get 2 flies BTFO'd with 1 stone here. Quality time and an answer to what was stalking you.
This is actually pretty much what we were thinking of doing. So far, we've noticed that it doesn't like light. Wouldn't come close when the campfire was lit and lanterns were on. And that it only really approaches at around 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. and is most active at around midnight to 2 a.m.
Cool, matey. Some advice, of course, is to make said base camp a safe house or whatever, and never fully leave it. Always have more than 1 person there keeping lights, fires and lanterns, etc. going. Others move out for recon or firewood gathering or whatever. I don't know how many firearms you have at your disposal, or skilled shooters for that matter, but keep at least 1 loaded barrel at base camp as well for ground defense. From a safety aspect, the camp should be like a little fort or something where you can feel safe even if the creature is just outside its walls. From there you can taunt it however you like and observe how it responds. It obviously uses the forest environment to get around, so an unnatural environment like a man-made shelter should take it some while to figure out how to breach if it wanted to do so. If it does figure out, however, just book it out of there. Another idea for expansion and area mapping is outposts. Get those tall big torches and have them placed lit up in various directions and distances from the camp. If the creature dislikes light and maybe fire and fear of burns, this should force it to move around and in between the outpost torches, meaning you can bait it and force it to take certain paths to get to you, which also opens for those traps you posted about earlier. See where I'm going here? If I figure out more ideas for hunting or just mapping this thing out, I'll post them.
I like the idea of using torches to bait the creature into traps. I hadn't thought of that before. As for how many firearms we will only have 2, and only 1 of the people wielding has any real skill.
Well, let him teach someone else who can be trusted as a shot, and let that new learner camp the base when the actual skilled shooter follows the recon crew outside of the camp. Also, maybe use some light identifiers on your persons as you leave camp, like maybe cracking a couple of glow sticks and hanging them on you. That way it will be easier to find one another should you get separated in the dark, or worse, someone actually being in danger. It doesn't have to be glow sticks, but something that glows on its own and isn't so bright that it'll obscure the vision of a spectator. Also, flares, if you can get any, should be useful for quickly clearing an area in a short time, and for a short time to provide overview and passage. They would also serve as preemptive clearing of small areas before you can secure them properly, such as tossing a flare, and then quickly move in and establish a more wholesome and lasting light perimeter while the flare still burns, giving you more time and safety to work on the spot away from the camp. Use case example. Say you have a designated area for fetching firewood, be it loose sticks and timber or bigger chunks that need axing up before going on the fire. You could toss flares in advance to make sure the creature is not there, or at least moved because of the flare, and then you place your torch or lantern or whatever, and let the armed guards of the group adjust to the surrounding while 1 or more is working the firewood source, collecting or axing, etc. It's fun to plan Aussie Anons monster hunting trip. I can't be there and oversee IRL. Sad desu, but keep us posted about your hunting PLS. I want to know how it turns out, even if you get nothing new out of it. I want follow-ups to this. You really got me interested.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.